Hello, my fellow YouTube citizens. This is your president, the presidential tourist. I'm on my way to an event, something different from my channel. It's a Civil War reenactment called the Battle at Narcoossee Mill. I've thought about going to this one for a couple years or so. Been thinking about doing a couple of these Civil War events for the last couple years. Just haven't been able to make it. Finally had some time today. I almost went last year to this one, and just something came up. But I'm on my way this time, and it's located in St. Cloud, Florida. It's not based in any real battle or anything, from what I understand. They've been having this event for 25, 26 years, something like that. So it's been going for a long time. But they have they reenact a typical Civil War battle. Today, I guess it's they break it up into two different battles. Yesterday they had, from what I understood, because I called ahead of time, the North one, and then today they're gonna have the South one, I guess, to keep it fair. But they have different tents and reenactors walking around. And I think it's gonna be a pretty cool event and a pretty historical one if you're interested in this stuff, because I always interested in these history events. So definitely something different for my channel, but in the line of what some of the things I've been doing, because I like checking out some historical places. And if you've been watching my channel, you know. So it's going to be only a second for you by the time I get there, and a little bit longer for me. But you're going to be seeing some cool stuff hopefully today. Some war battle and some other stuff. Alright. See you in a bit. Bye. Just ways going on ahead. Keep going. Well, finally arrived. Took a lot longer than I planned, but we're here.
Oh look, we could go anywhere.
I don't know. A lot of people here today, but I was told that Sunday is the least busier day, so we'll see.
Right.
So they went both ways.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, after the war, they continued to kill each other.
Yep. You still had the Hatfield and McCoy effect up there.
Yeah, well,
They rear up their heads, and then
my
we go
family
ahead and round them up and sell
fought with the McCoys.
Okay.
Spanish are
And you know how long that ranged? That ranged all the way up to World War I.
And you know, I'm from New York.
Okay.
And I know his family. That's the time he told me. And when I'd be down in southwestern Virginia and talk to people, you couldn't get to fight the Civil War back then.
Took the McClellan saddle.
They didn't like it. It had a Yankee accent.
My mom was a 13th generation Southern. We can trace the genealogy all the way back to her. Okay. She didn't call them Yankees. It was one word. Damn Yankees.
Yeah, there you go.
But my sister married a boy from Michigan. Okay, now we were Atlanta folks. My mom disowned my sister. Well, 4 years later, when they had their first child, she was happy as a lark that she had a grandchild. So, you know,
Of course, you got to get over it. But then
well,
once you wove
her
it,
family,
then you had to cut it out and sew it by hand.
there's plenty of them.
So it would take you months to make one
That
outfit.
literally is white.
But this was the dedication that you had to have if you wanted to clothe your
The
family.
artist decided
It was not an easy life. So the South had it rough all the way around,
so, but the White House,
especially if you did not belong to a well-financed family. Of course, a lot of the plantations, they lost money because they couldn't sell their products.
Is this the camp area, or they don't have it back there in the corner like they used to?
Well, that's what I say about cheap prices. How y'all doing today? I have seen the cheap.
Not here to look at. Oh, let me show you. I paid my entrance fee. Got my old stamp.
We have all kinds of history challenges. If you're up for some fun, we have some games where you look around and read some history signs. And if you complete the answer, you get a flag wave at the battle. We have our schedule here today of what's going on. We're going to have some rifle demonstrations in just a few moments.
She actually,
And then later at 12:30, we're going to have a cannon load and fire demonstration. They're going to explain the process of loading and firing a cannon. And then we're going to have some live music with 7 pounds of bacon at 1 o'clock. And then at 2 o'clock, here comes the battle. So, you're welcome. Lots to see and do. Feel free to talk to any of the living history people. They'll be happy to explain.
Now you're throwing a football. Okay? Now you got a football and you're throwing it. The chances of hitting that sign. A lot better, exactly. So, you're welcome to pass that around to do it. Exactly. A smoothbore musket is only accurate about 50 yards.
Oh, but it is accurate.
Up to about 50 yards, exactly. But a rifled musket is accurate now. This is the same gun. When it was smoothbore, was accurate 50 yards. By rifling it, it became accurate 250 yards. Okay. The problem was our tactics didn't change. You're going to see on the battlefield today, we were still using what were called Napoleonic tactics, ones that were developed by Napoleon in the early 1800s. Napoleon's tactics were because you were using muskets that didn't have a good distance and didn't have very good accuracy. Everybody gets shoulder to shoulder in a big line. Everybody comes up and shoots at once, and you're basically making a big shotgun, right? The chances are then you're actually going to hit somebody, okay? And you also have to get right up in their faces. So you would get up 50 yards away from your enemy, everybody get in a line, come up face to face and fire, okay? And you would see that. Well, if you're doing that with a musket, there's going to be damage, but you're also going to miss a lot. Those bullets are going to wander around, they're going to go high, they're going to go low, right? Well, now we're using the same tactics, but with guns that have no chance of missing. Right, I'm going to hit whatever I'm aiming at because they're only 50 yards away from me and I'm shooting with a rifled musket. That's why you saw so much more damage, so much more injury during the war between the states is because you couldn't miss. The other thing that happened, or the other problem, a modern jacketed bullet, high muzzle velocity, that thing goes through, it hits, goes straight through, leaves a hole about that big, right? Relatively easy to patch up, right? It just leaves a nice clean hole. You can slap a Band-Aid on it and go on down the road, right? This thing is soft lead and it's a slow muzzle velocity. When it hits you, it's not going through you, it's flattening out. In fact, when it hits and flattens, it gets to be about the size of a silver dollar and then moves through. So it's not just leaving a hole, it's taking bone, tissue, everything with it. The medical technology of the time was great. The surgeons were fantastic. But the reason you had so many amputations is there was nothing left to reattach. They had to take the arm off because it was just gone when it went through there. And that was because the technology ended up outpacing the tactics we were using. And it wasn't until the Spanish-American War in the late 1800s when everybody had then cartridge and rimfire bullets that the tactics ended up changing.
Is that one shot?
This is one shot, okay? It actually takes 9 steps to load this thing, and we would practice that over and over and over again. First step would include opening your cartridge box and removing a cartridge. So I reach in and I pull out cartridge. The cartridge is a paper tube full of 600 grains of triple F powder or 60 grains of double F powder. And at the time, it would have included the bullet in that paper tube. Now, as a reenactor for safety, we don't use the bullets, so I don't have that in my tube here today, okay? And then the next step would have been to tear the cartridge. Now, you were required in the infantry as a regulation to have 4 teeth, 2 opposing top and bottom, or you could not be an infantry officer because you had to have matching teeth, top and bottom, to tear the cartridge. If you did not have 4 opposing teeth, 2 up and bottom, you couldn't be an infantry soldier. You had to be cavalry or something else. So I'm going to tear that cartridge and I'm going to pour the powder down the tube. Then I'm going to take my bullet, set it in the end, pull my ramrod, and ram the bullet down, okay? Shoving the bullet all the way down to the end of the barrel. So now I have all my powder and my bullet down here in the end of the barrel, okay? Next thing I'm going to do is pull back my hammer and retrieve a cap. So I have to go into my cap box and pull out a cap. The cap is a brass cap full of fulminated mercury. How many of you guys had cap guns when you were little, right? Those pop guns, right? Okay, it's the exact same thing. It's just fulminated mercury. It creates a little spark when it gets crushed, right? So I'm going to put the cap on here. I'm now almost ready to fire this weapon because right now I'm at half cock. This gun will not fire. It's in its safety position. I can pull that trigger all day. You ever hear the term "don't go off half cocked"? This is where that comes from because I cannot fire this gun when it is half cocked. I have to pull it back to a full cocked position in order to fire the gun. Now I do not have black powder in here, so this is not going to be as loud as it could be. You're just going to hear the cap go off here. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to fire this gun with the cap. Okay, that cap fired, it created a spark that went down this tube that I put it on. That tube was open to the end of the barrel. It ignites the powder. Powder fires out the bullet, and we start the whole thing over again. Okay, 9 steps: load and fire the gun. If I'm really good, I'm really practiced, and I'm really up to speed, I can fire off 3 aimed shots in a minute. That's my goal, to be able to fire 3 aimed shots in a minute. Okay. Now, that's in best case scenario, right? If I'm out there in a battle, there's all these people around me and all this stuff going on and things happening.
The loading and firing of a Henry rifle, an Enfield rifle, a field pistol, and at 12:30 we have a demonstration of a cannon firing, loading and firing. So if you get a chance, come on down here to the fence line. I'm going to see some nice Peary Creek gentlemen showing us how to load and fire the Peary Creek weapons. Hope you all are having a good day out here, and enjoy your time here at the Battle at Narcoossee Mill. You're digging yourself deep. Thank you. Thank you for coming out today.
Yeah, you're done. You're stuck. You're gonna have to get up, pal.
How about this? I've had this.
Check out some more of this a little later. That's the band, 7 pounds of bacon. Interesting name.
And this is my friend Tim. He's also with the 37 Alabama. The 37 Alabama is a Confederate unit, obviously, but we also portray the 7 Illinois. And for this event, we always come portraying the Union, so as the 7 Illinois. I have a very strong accent, as you noticed already. The reason for that is I'm French Canadian. I'm from Quebec City, which is accurate because during the Civil War, between 50 to 60,000, between 50 to 60,000 Canadian, it was not Canada yet, came and fought during the Civil War. Most of them on the Union side, but also on the Confederate side. Halifax was used as a port to fix the Confederate ships that were damaged at sea during the blockade, and Montreal was the hub for the spies. And the boot was in Montreal 6 months before the assassination of Lincoln. But there was, according to the history, was never the plan. As you know, he did that on his own. But he was in Montreal with the Confederate spies 6 months prior to that. Come on in, come on in. Yep. So, I'm going to talk about the dress right now. I'm dressed as a militia Confederate. At the beginning of the war, when the South seceded from the Union, they took everything from the army that they were in, basically. And so at the first battles, they were both dressed the same, which created problems. So towards the war, the Confederate started wearing the gray, but it were mismatching. It was not rare to see a Confederate soldier with blue pants. And what I'm wearing right now is a battle shirt. It's all end sewn because I'm French Canadian. I got the fleur-de-lis as an add-on, but they would build a shirt like this. It's called battle shirt, And I'm wearing my buckle upside down because I'm the Southern nation. Okay, so they would steal from the battlefield. They will steal the cartridge box from the U.S. soldier. They will steal the shoes from the U.S. soldier because the supplies, they had the pants, because the supply was pretty bad. So in order to support themselves, they would salvage from the battlefield, okay? The rifle that was the mostly used is the Enfield. It is rifle, so therefore when the bullet comes out it's spinning and it's way more accurate. At the beginning of the war, come on in. At the beginning of the war, they were using the old British traditional battle line. So everybody's facing each other, you shoot first, I shoot after. The gentleman way. With a flintlock and a round bullet that goes all over the place, that may work. But when you have a weapon as accurate as this one, and if you're a good infantryman, you can fire 3 shots a minute, then there is a problem. So doing the line against the line became obsolete pretty quick.
Y'all come on in.
Come on in. So, in order to load the rifle, this is what they had to do. Under the order, load, rifle goes to the left, so it's pointing away from me. Cartridge box, get a cartridge. The prerequisite to be in the infantry was to have 2 teeth, front teeth. The reason? And it's not a lie, it's the truth. So they would put the black powder, then they would put the paper, and in the paper they would have the bullet. So they would put that in, take the rammer out, ram, get the rammer out, put it back because the weapon without the rammer is useless. Then they would take their baby finger and push it in so their hand's not over the barrel in case there was a cook-off. Then they would change a primer. Pinch it a bit so it doesn't fall off when you're walking. Now this weapon is safe, cannot be fired.
Yeah.
Because it's not full yet, right? So it's half.
Half
right?
cocked.
So this cannot fire.
Hence the term don't go off half cocked.
So now, when you're ready, ready?
Fire in the hole!
This is the same amount of powder that they would use, 60 grain. For people that don't use weapon, that doesn't mean that you count grain by grain. It's a measure, pre-measured of 60 grain. So normally, the weapon caliber will indicate the number of grain that you should load. So that's a 60 grain. Then they would also use pistols. Okay, this is a 44. So if you look in the books, 36 is Yankee, 44 is Confederate for pistols. Okay, so basically to load this, the rammer, instead of having the rammer here, the rammer is right here. Right? So you would put black powder first, use the rammer, press it down, then take a bullet, put it on top and press it down.
Y'all come on
Okay?
in. Fill in up there.
So you would do that 6 times, and then you would put 6 caps on top, just like I did, right? And then the weapon would be loaded. When it's loaded, you put it between 2 chambers. So if it's between 2 chambers and you knock it for some reason, it's not gonna fire. Okay? For reenactment purpose here, I'm not gonna point this at you. You can see the yellow. This is bore butter. So what we do is we put the powder in, press it down, then you take bore butter, and we have a recipe now that we share that I mix bore butter and beeswax together, melt it, and you stir it as it's cooling down. That make a paste. So when you fire 1 shot, it's not hot enough to melt the rest of the grease and have a chain fire, okay? Because there's no bullet covering the black powder. So that's pretty much that. Now, my friend is going to talk about his rifle.
So, like he's saying, he's dressed as a Southern militia. I'm also a member of the 37th Alabama, but most of us have uniforms of both sides. I'm dressed as a sergeant of the 7th Illinois, which is the other unit we portray. You have to have somebody to shoot at these reenactments, so if they don't have enough of one side, we get to galvanize, is what it's called. Change sides and fight on the other side for a day. We take turns doing that. So, like I said, I'm dressed as a sergeant in the 7th Illinois, which is a Union unit. A lot of the Union units use the same rifle, same pistol as the Confederate units. A lot of them were imported from England. England sold to both sides and made a lot of money during the war. One thing that was developed in the U.S. are repeating rifles. This is a Henry rifle. They also had Spencer rifles and Sharps rifles. All of these were different types of repeating rifles. This one was actually developed in 1860, before the war even started. But the United States government, the Army, in their infinite wisdom, decided they would not issue repeating rifles to the troops because they were very costly and because they felt the troops might waste too much ammunition. And you contrast that today with our fully automatic assault rifles that the military uses. So this one would hold rounds in chamber underneath the barrel. You'd open it up like that. You would drop 15 rounds down here. And as fast as you could work the lever action, you could fire off 15 rounds. He can fire off 3 rounds a minute. I can fire off 15 rounds in about 20 seconds. So that gives you quite a different perspective from one side to the other. You could have a company of men with Henry rifles, and they could put out as much firepower and hold off a whole regiment of Confederate soldiers at the time. And of course, the Confederates, you say, well, why don't they just get the Henry rifles? Because you got to have ammunition for the Henry rifle, and once you run out, all you've got is just a hunk of metal you can swing like a club. You don't have anything you can shoot. So I'll drop in a couple of rounds here. And it looks like today's modern cartridges. You can see there's one that's a blank.
I said turn it around, you can turn your speakers on.
So here we go. I'll just fire off a couple of them real quick. Ah, it didn't fire. There it goes. So just like that, it's just like the precursor to the old Western lever action rifles.
Okay. Both our rifles are reproduction. The difference between a reproduction and a replica look like, but it's not a real gun, as I call it. It doesn't have the marking, the proofing for firing, and it can be looking nice on the wall. You can go on the internet and buy a replica of this gun for $200. They're made in Pakistan or in China, and we had a reenactor that showed up to one of the reenactments with that. We always do a safety check of all the weapons before we go to the field, and that weapon could not be fired. I mean, it was a piece of steel with welded part at the bottom. You don't do that. So yeah, you can put on the wall, but that's it, that's all. Those are reproduction. The spec for the screws is the same as the original. Okay? They used to be made in the state. This one was made in the state pre-1970. Now they're made in Italy. A brand new one is $1,200. Okay? Same for his. They're made in Italy and they're $1,200. If you buy the Henry made by the Henry Corporation, still in the States, it's $1,800. Okay? For the pistols, like his is a Army Sport, I believe.
Colt Navy, 1850.
Yeah, but made by Army Sport,
oh, made
right?
made by Uberti.
Yeah. So
also Italian.
There is two big makers, Uberti and Pieta, that makes them. Used to have Army of San Polo and Army of San Marco that was making them also in Italy. Those two are now inexistent. They're not exist anymore. You can still buy a Colt Like this one, brand new, would be about $300. You can buy a Navy Cold, made by Cold, it's $850. Give you an idea of the range of the prices. All the reenactors that you see here paid $7 to get in, paid for their gas, paid for their ammo, paid for their dress, for everything. So we do this for fun because it's a passion. I've been doing this for 12 years, and Tim and I, we've been reenacting from Shiloh to
Key West.
And we went down to Dry Tortugas 2 years ago. We were the first unit to go there 150 years. We were pretty impressed with that. So if you never heard of that one, that's a fort. That's an hour and 15 minutes by boat from Key West. And it's a pristine Civil War fort. It was never modified. Okay, it's a state park now. It's a beautiful place to go visit. In Key West, there is a fort, but the fort from the Civil War was modified for the Spanish War, for the Cuban War, for World War I and World War II. So it's all a little bit of mixed up of everything. There's concrete, there is 1861 blocks, so it's a little bit of mixed up. But the one, an hour and 15 minutes past that, is unique. If you go check online, Dry Tortugas, it's pretty impressive. Beside that,
you guys remember the movie, Clint Eastwood movie, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Any of you guys remember that movie? It's Western, but set place during the Civil War. The director wanted everything as accurate as possible, so he had special uniforms sewn up. He had the Italian gun makers make the weapons to look like the reproduction. So after the movie was shot, they had all of these left over. And they said, oh, well, there's a big market for reenacting gear in the United States. So they started selling them over here in the U.S. And that's how the Italian gun makers got into the habit of making all of our weapons or anything, was basically through all of the, not props, but actual rifles that they made for that movie.
So 30 years ago, because when we're talking to some of our friends that have been doing this for over 30 years, when they started reenacting in Florida 30 years ago, people were wearing blue jeans, cowboy hat, and 12-shot gun. And that's it. They came and had fun, and they were playing both sides and trying to reenact this battle. I don't know if you know, but in Florida, there is a few sites, like the Battle of Velocity, that's a real battle site. There is a Brooksville that had a raid, the blockade, they came inland and they destroyed stuff. So there's a few places in Florida that really happened, right? But no big, huge battle in Florida, obviously. That said, when we do a reenactment like we're gonna do today, it's just to show you some of the tactics. We use the same drill manual that they used in 1861, right? We try to be as accurate as possible, humanly possible. I mean, I'm not going to ask him to go in the battlefield with his glasses because he's got a rifle. Okay.
I should have changed my glasses before I came out here.
So, but you know, like stuff like that. But we try to be as accurate as possible. Any question?
And you guys think you're hot sitting in the sun. I'm in wool pants and a wool uniform.
Okay. I got a question here. The question is, where is the biggest reenactment? The biggest reenactment, it's probably Gettysburg. But personally, I've done it twice. I done it for 147 and 150th, and that's not one of my best ones because what they do is they take a big rectangular field, which is flat, and they put bleachers like this, and then they have a battle, and they have the Battle of Little Round Top. Battle of Little Round Top happened on a mountain. It's a top. So to do that on a flat, to me, it's no good. When we did the 150th. Gentleman that owned a farm just on the other side of Little Round Top in Gettysburg said we could use his land. We were 10,000 reenactors. Yes. But when we did Little Round Top, we had to climb it 3 times in July. We're wearing all the gears. Yeah. Now we know the feeling of these soldiers. And that's what we do this, right? So the best reenactment, I would say, are the smaller reenactment with a feel like this This would probably look similar to this, except that the grass would not be cut, it would be higher and stuff like that. But you know what I'm saying? It's the feel of that. Yes.